Hey guys, good Monday to you, and this is the Sports Web live on Bucks Report. I'm your host, Peter Blake. It is the day after show. I know how you're feeling today. It's Monday. The Bucks lost. You guys need to vent more. You guys need to cheer up a little bit. So what did I do? I wore my Tampa Bay Lightning shirt. I know it's not professional, but guys, you're in the Tampa Bay area. There is a team that's winning right now. As we're live on Bucks Report, I'm your host, Peter Blake, host of the only FM sports talk show in the Tampa Bay area on Saturday afternoons from 3 to 6 on WTAN 106.1 FM and 1340 AM. So we have some things to talk about today, don't we? We talked about last night how I thought Chandler Canton-Zero shouldn't be on this team. If he was, you would be wrong. I think the only reason why he was on this team is because he hit a 59-yard field goal versus the Cleveland Browns. Well, now he's not on this team anymore. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers decided to go a different direction as they signed former Chief Bear and Los Angeles Ram kicker Cairo Santos. So hopefully he is the answer for this kicking problem, which by all accounts has never been that good ever since Matt Bryan has left, right? Has never been that good. I mean, it's almost like the curse of a quarterback here, like Doug Williams. Like you have a quarterback for so long, and then after you get rid of him, you can't find that replacement. And then, of course, Brad Johnson comes along and he wins the Super Bowl, and everything's okay. But finally, you get a kicker. His best year in 2016, 89%. So we'll see what happens. I'm not going to read off statistics about kickers. I'm really not at this point. I think the guy's got to make kicks. If he can make a 30-yard field goal, it's an improvement. If he can make a 48-yard field goal, it's an improvement. If he can make an extra point, it's an improvement at this point, Bucks Nation, Bucks Report. So just had to cheer you up today. Again, I know how you're feeling. I got up this morning. I had a bad taste in my mouth because I felt like this team, with all their losses this year, besides the Chicago Bears loss, that most likely they were in every game and they could have won every game. And it's just sickening to think that this team had 501 yards yesterday of offense and only 3 points. So, and we're going to take some questions tonight because there was another decision that kind of surprised me, and we'll get to you guys. We'll go as long as we can at this point because you still got to produce shows. Again, I'm your host, Peter Blake, of the Sports Web, the only FM sports talk show, the evolution of sports talk radio on Saturday afternoons. I am surprised that Cutter went back to Fitzpatrick, yes. And in his own words, Fitzpatrick gives this team, the best chance to win. I would have to disagree with that. I thought at the time taking out Winston was the answer. It wasn't, because Fitzpatrick has turned over the ball. In fact, the Buccaneers right now are looking at an NFL record, a good word on Monday, right? A dubious record of having 19 turnovers and only having 1 interception on defense. 3 turnovers yesterday. Do I think he's the answer? Absolutely not. In fact, I think there are some things in play here. Number one, I think Dirk Cutter is desperate at this point, trying to save his job, and he legitimately thinks that Ryan Fitzpatrick is the quarterback that's going to win him games. I tend to disagree at this point. I like to see a franchise quarterback in adverse situations. It's the first time Jameis Winston has been benched. I like to see how he responds. My take on a franchise quarterback is give me a quarterback that can go through adverse situations and see how he responds. This would be the perfect teaching tool, if you will, to see if Winston could do that. And unfortunately, Dirk Cutter has taken the easy way out and gone with Fitzpatrick. That's up to him. If he wants to go down with the ship, and ladies and gentlemen, make no mistake about it, this has sealed his fate. Being the offensive coordinator yesterday, calling the plays, and going with Ryan Fitzpatrick at this point, he's going down with the ship, and it's the Titanic at this point. Also, on top of that, I think it comes down to a money situation. The Buccaneers don't want to take a chance as an organization to be on the hook for that $21 to $22 million for Winston. They don't want him to get hurt. But I do believe you have to see what you have. And with this decision, I think basically we have our decision at this point that the Buccaneer organization has moved on from Jameis Winston. So we'll see what happens in the offseason. I believe this is a Dirk Cutter decision. Maybe the Glazers have some say in it, but I doubt it. If they do have some say in it and they do believe Jameis Winston is the quarterback, then something will be done in the offseason. But at this point, Ryan Fitzpatrick is your quarterback. So Bucs report, what do you think about signing Cairo Santos to a contract? What do you think about getting rid of Chandler Canton-Zero? And what do you think about Dirk Cutter making Ryan Fitzpatrick your starting quarterback going forward? Let's go out to the texting line and we will take some questions. Did Winston benching seal Cutter's fate? It may have, because look, Dirk Cutter was brought on for what? Because he had a relationship with Jameis Winston. So that relationship seems like it's gone south. And on top of it, the regression of Winston, and you can see that he has regressed. Maybe it is the play calling, whatever it is. You still can't turn over the ball. And I think at this point, with this decision today, it has sealed his fate. Fire and rehire, we shouldn't be kicking field goals with the offense we have. I agree with that, absolutely. I don't particularly expect a big increase in kicks under Santos, but it can't be worse. Well, look, Santos actually has a big leg. He's been accurate in his career. I know we've heard that before. He had an injury. He was cut from Kansas City. Again, his best year was in 2016 as 2018. So we'll see what happens at this point. But no, definitely no promises at this point. Really, no promises, because we've gone through this before with kickers, and we've seen it happen before, and it hasn't turned out well. And I think it always goes back to Matt Bryan being the curse of the kickers. The Glazers need to get on the phone and call Bruce Arians. I also wouldn't mind seeing Jack Del Rio as the next coach, maybe even John Harbaugh. Jordan, I tend to agree with you. Jack Del Rio has been a popular name. I'm not sure about that. Look, there's a name out there, and I'll steal this from Joe Bucks fan. Mike McCarthy. If the Packers continue to lose, maybe that's a name. You've already heard the report yesterday from NFL Network that John Harbaugh, the Ravens and Harbaugh could be basically calling it a day at the end of the year, coming to a mutual agreement where he's out. That would be a coach I would definitely look at. And I've already told you my preferred choice at this point would be Jim Harbaugh. Guy that is no nonsense, gets it done, gets the most out of your quarterback. He's turned in Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick into superstar quarterbacks. He's fiery, he's a proven commodity, and he's won everywhere he's been. So that would be my choice, but any way it goes at this juncture would be an improvement over Dirk Cutter. I think we all know that as a fan base at this point. I read Cutter really wanted Mariota. He didn't want Winston and his off-the-field issues. That's possible, Matt, because from what you hear, Dirk Cutter came from that Oregon offense, had some friends. In fact, there were many reports out there that expected the Buccaneers to take Mariota. I wasn't one of them. When Lovie Smith came here as a coach and decided to tab Cutter as the offensive coordinator, it seemed to make sense that Winston worked more in Cutter's system, and it just hasn't worked at this point. So I don't think Mariota's been that much better. I mean, honestly, look at the statistics, maybe turnover-wise, but Mariota is not going to, he's not going to do anything more than what he's done for the Tennessee Titans. And to be fair to the situation, I think the Titans have done a better job in building an offensive line and having a running game and putting more weapons around Mariota in that offensive system. Let's see. Lids in St. Pete, absolutely. Get out there. Tell them Bucks Report sent you. Winston's such a young man, not like the Bucks are used to having a Pro Bowl quarterback. Why not work with him and not against him? I don't understand it either, Henry, but at this point, there's two things in play. Once again, Cutter feels like Fitzpatrick is going to give him the best chance to win, so that's why he's going to start him, because he's going to keep his job. And on top of it, the Bucks don't want to take a chance. Now, if the Glazers have some say, maybe they bring Winston back with a new coaching staff. That's why I say Jim Harbaugh, because I think if you believe as an organization that Winston is the guy going forward, then this coach and this general manager must have a relationship with Jameis Winston and feeling that he is the quarterback. Jim Harbaugh has that. It seems like a perfect fit, but we'll see what happens at this point. Winston will be better with a different coach. That's certainly possible. Again, go back to Jared Goff. There's been many quarterbacks in this league that have done better under coaches. It just happens. It's better coaching. He's a good backup quarterback, Winston. I don't know. I don't know why you would keep him as a backup at this point. I still like to see more of him. I still like to see him in these adverse situations, but it's not going to happen. We need more vets on our defense. I agree with that. Defense may need an overhaul at this point. Monken calling the plays is the better option. I absolutely agree with that, Matt. It is the better option, especially when you have a number one offense that is comparable to the 2000 St. Louis Rams passing attack. Are you serious? And what you're watching right now is the Day After Show, the Sports Web Live from the Tantalk Sports Studios. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. We're on Bucks Report right now doing this show for as long as we can get this great response that we're getting. Tampa Bay needs a defensive-minded coach. I mean, that's certainly a possibility at this point, John, but I like to go offense, especially if you have the offense that you have. But it's certainly possible you could go in that defensive manner because this team right now needs a defense, and they haven't had it. They've gone different directions. They've gone with Greg Schiano. They've gone with Lovie Smith. Really, it comes down to a great coach. Whether he's an offensive-minded or a defensive-minded coach, it comes down to organizational skills and using the talent that you have and getting the most out of that talent at every opportunity. Not 1 quarter, not 2 quarters, 4 quarters. That's the difference. Let's see. Why even have an offensive coordinator if the head coach is going to be calling the plays? I don't understand it either. Let's see. Jim Harbaugh has the top defense in the NCAA. You're absolutely correct. And if he wins the national championship this year, which maybe they challenge Alabama in the first round and beat them, maybe he has other thoughts. Look, a coach never loses that itch to get back into the NFL. Maybe he has that itch, and maybe Tampa Bay Buccaneers scratch it for him by giving him Gruden type of money. Just throwing it out there. Let's see. Yes, absolutely. Time to get a fresh mind. Let's see. Let me go ahead and take some more questions here. Let's go back when Tampa Bay's defense won close games and dominated the league. That's absolutely correct, John. And here's the thing. Tony Dungy was a coach that wasn't going to give you that soundbite, but he was going to hold his players accountable. And on top of it, what was his thing? Execution and not making mental mistakes. Right now, the Buccaneers are making all kinds of mental mistakes. All right, let's see. We need a defensive-minded coach. Maybe we do. Put the rookie in and see what he can do. That's also a possibility. You don't know what Ryan Griffin has, and if this goes downhill at this point, I don't think Griffin is a rookie. He's been in this system for a while. I don't want to see the third-string quarterback. I like to see Winston again in this adverse situation, but it's not going to happen. Let's see. Tampa Bay needs a new young up-and-coming coach who thinks out of the box. Stop with the retreads already. I somewhat agree with you, but then again, you look at the Glazers and their selections in the past, unless you hire a football guy or a football president that understands the next young mind in this league, I'm not making that hire. I would rather, if the Glazers are making this decision, I think they get a coach that's been proven. Do we finally have a kicker? Great question. I have no idea. $21 million is absolutely in play. It is on the table. No run game, horrible defense, not a winning formula. Exactly. I mean, look at what's going on with the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott, his year when he was successful, you had a running game with Ezekiel Elliott. You had an offensive line that's blocked. The offensive line has been underachieving. You haven't necessarily had that running game that you have now. It's getting back to it, and Dak Prescott has been a normal quarterback, so you have to help your quarterback out at this point. Let's see. Mariota has a good defense and a running game. Absolutely correct. Derek Brooks is a Bucs legend. It's time to come home, run this team as the next GM. That's certainly possible at this point. Let's see. John Harbaugh, head coach. Jack Del Rio, defensive coordinator next season. Corey, I think you're dreaming at this point because I still think that maybe Jack Del Rio wants to be a head coach. We shall see. Cutter already stated that Winston would be here much longer than him. So I'm good with him sitting, especially now that Cutter is back calling plays. That's an absolutely astute point, and a point that a lot of people missed and thought that Cutter was really being facetious about it, but he really wasn't. He may have known something that everybody else didn't know. So we shall see if Winston is with the other administration. Can we reach out to Monty Kiffin? No. Monty Kiffin is done. It's time to turn the page at this point, guys. No running game, no defense. Agree. And you have to have a running game and a defense. And look, we can sit here and talk about the Bucs possibly being a playoff contender. Of course, they're not. But at the beginning of the season, the two things that make the great teams great in November and December is what, ladies and gentlemen? Playing defense and running the ball. Put Winston back in. I agree with you. I would like to see Winston back in, Brianna, but it doesn't look like he's going to get in. When will they fire Canton Zero? They got rid of him today. Let's see. A defensive-minded head coach means nothing. A head coach is just that, a head coach. He isn't riding the defense or the offense. He puts those people in place. The DC and OC control those spots. Absolutely correct. Doesn't matter if you're defensive mind or offensive mind at this point. You got to be a good coach. You got to have good organizational skills. And you have to believe in the people that you hire. And obviously, we found out yesterday that Dirk Cutter doesn't. What you're watching right now is the Day After show here live from the Tan Talk Sports Studios. I'm your host, Peter Blake, host of the only FM sports talk show in the Tampa Bay area on Saturday afternoons from 3 to 6 on WTAN 106.1 FM and 1340 AM. Put Ryan Griffin in. I don't know. We'll see. Bucs Report is live. Absolutely. What's up? May as well at this point. It can't hurt. Well, I mean, I don't know. He's been in this system for a while now, so we'll see what happens. John Harbaugh worth $100 million for the Bucs. I don't know if you have to pay him that much in order to get him here. Let's see, $100 million. That's crazy. The same way they fire the kicker, they need to fire both quarterbacks. All right, RatPackSports.com. Let's see here. $21 million is a lot of money you can use on that defense. Well, again, whoever comes into this situation, whoever's making the decision at this point will be able to decide if Winston is worth that $21 million. Maybe there's a coach they hire that likes Winston, or maybe the Glazers go a different direction. Again, the elephant in the room is if you get rid of Jameis Winston, he is a 24-year-old quarterback, and the thing that you have to worry about is if he does go to another organization and he does succeed and possibly win a Super Bowl, then you're looking back and it's hindsight, and hindsight is 2020. Let's see here. Waiting for the Buccaneers to sign Cairo Santos. They have, according to ESPN. Owners are too cheap to get a good head coach. I'm not sure to say that. I think the owners have tried to do it different ways. I don't think they're cheap, to be fair to the Glazers. I think they put in all their resources. Unfortunately, they put in their resources in the wrong places. That's why you need a president of operations, and I think Derek Brooks would be the right man to hire at this point. Head coach needs great connections around the league. A rookie head coach is nowhere near effective. I think Sean McVay would I think he would a little bit disagree with you at this point. 31, 32-year-old young mind came out of the Washington Redskins as an offensive assistant, and it's taken off with the LA Rams. Of course, that organization also has devoted over $200 million to make that roster better in every way, shape, and form. That's why they've been successful. We need to draft the defensive side of the ball. Jason Light neglected the defense. You could absolutely say he has. Drafting a kicker takes away from getting a defensive tackle, takes away from getting a cornerback. He's done that. It's been tough. You look at the situation with this team and where they're at right now, you would have to say they have talent, but they still lack those areas at cornerback, at running back, at offensive line, and also on the defensive line because they can't get a consistent pass rush at this point. How would you feel about Josh McDaniels for head coach? I would feel fine about it, Gene, but I don't think it's going to happen simply because Josh McDaniels turned down the Colts for a reason, and the writing is on the wall with Bill Belichick maybe possibly moving on at this point. I think McDaniels would be tabbed as the next guy for the New England Patriots at this point. Let's see. Cutter has always been the problem. You can't win with a coach who has no answers to fix his own team. Poor player development with the high school coaching staff. Skip Bayless called out Dirk and his staff years ago. Stop hiring generic coaches and go for the top of the line premium coaches. And I think that may be the direction that you go at this point just because of that factor. You can absolutely get a quality assistant, but you have to know what kind of assistant you're getting. You have to know if he is going to be a NFL coach or if he is just an assistant. And at this point, to give credit to where credit is due, Dirk Cutter most likely is an offensive coordinator, not a head coach in this league. And it's shown with his record, and game management situations and other situations have shown. And it is an indictment not only on this organization, but also on Cutter himself. Keith Larson for GM, why not? How can we go wrong? Fitz is not good. Our defense is not good either. Our offensive line is not good. I mean, there's all kinds of areas that you could address on this team right now. That's why they are 3-6. It's disappointing. Let Grimes and Deshaun go. Free cap space. I think they were anticipating that anyway. Deshaun has a big number at the end of the year. I could see them going with Chris Godwin. Brent Grimes at this point is just collecting a paycheck. It's time to move on. Father Time has caught up with him. He's not only one step slower, he's probably 2 steps slower, and he looks like a shell of himself at this point. We should have kept Mike Glennon. Mike Glennon's a backup quarterback. He isn't the answer. Ask the Chicago Bears. Fitz isn't good. Haha, you're kidding, right? Well, Fitz is inconsistent. Fitz had some good games this year, but there's a reason why they call him Fitz Magic. He had 3 turnovers yesterday, cost his team. If I knew how to fix it, I would. Dirk Cutter, my favorite quote. Well, that's pretty much an indictment on Cutter at this point. Will the Bucs ever start Ryan Griffin this season? I don't know, Corey. I have no idea. I like Lovie Smith as a head coach. The problem with Lovie Smith and the problem with that situation, it's been mentioned here the last couple weeks, and let me just go ahead and tell you what I know. When the Glazers came in and asked him if he was going to change the defense, what his answer was a defensive consultant. They didn't like the way he fixed the defense. He was brought in here to do that. It was absolutely terrible. On top of it, the factor was that Dirk Cutter, they didn't want to lose him to a team like the San Francisco 49ers or the Miami Dolphins, and they wanted to keep that offensive coordinator in-house because of the relationship with Winston, and that's why they kept him. Because, look, what do we know about franchise young quarterbacks? If you change their offensive coordinators, eventually it basically messes up their development. Fortunately, this hasn't worked out. It doesn't matter about development because Jameis Winston has regressed anyway. Rex Ryan, maybe? Possible, I guess. Put Fitz back in? Well, Fitz is back in, Cody. That's what Dirk Cutter said today. We need to have continuity as a staff. I really want to go into another rebuilding period. Our offense is in its prime. It would be wasted. I don't know where you go with that. I mean, I think you have to retool this defense. I think you have some players on this team that are making big numbers right now, big money, and you may have to consider. It just depends on what type of coach you hire and what type of defensive scheme they're going to run. Cut Beninock, yes, he's had an absolutely rough time of it. He has been a weak link on this offensive line and has not been good. It has been a failure. Let's see. I would fire the coach in Winston. I think a lot of people echo those thoughts. Brett Bucks is coming up on Bucks Report tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Guys, keep it tuned here on Bucks Report, the best source of Buccaneer information. I'm your host of the only FM sports talk show in the Tampa Bay area on Saturday afternoons from 3 to 6 on WTAN 106.1 FM and 1340 AM. We call it the Sports Web. It's the evolution of sports talk radio. We give you your own welcome music. We let you call in twice, and we don't hang up on you like those other sports talk shows do. All right, let's see. Also, Tony's Take at 7:30. Game plan was good on both sides of the ball Sunday. They just threw the game away inside the 20. Well, that's a problem. That was a problem last year with this offensive staff, with Dirk Cutter calling the plays, and it was the problem on Sunday. Should have left it alone. Is it far-fetched to think we could get Bell next year? No, it's not. It just depends on who you get as a coach and what kind of emphasis they put on the running game. But my question is, do you want to pay Bell $10 to $14 million? Do you think a running back is worth that? Maybe in this offense, maybe. Trade Winston and Nola for Bridgewater. I don't know if that's going to happen at this point. We'll see. And that's another reason why you would play Jameis Winston, because if you're interested and you're not interested in having him as your future at this point, then why not try to increase his trade value by playing him? What kind of trade value does he have at this point? Glennon flopped as a starter on a different team last year. He did. We shouldn't go back to 70s uniforms. Haha, really? I didn't like the orange uniforms at all. I didn't like Bucco Bruce. I'm going to tell you right now. I like the Super Bowl uniforms. Those are the real deal uniforms at this point, if we're talking. Ozzie Newsome as president. I don't know if that's going to happen. There's a reason why he's retiring. What else does he have to prove? This would be a big-time challenge. You may be able to get him if he wants to come aboard. Let's see. With the defense that bad, you have to look at defense in the draft and free agency. Winston stays. Defense gets a new look. Absolutely possible. You could change schemes. You could go to 3-4, but you have to get players that are also going to be accountable and do their job, and I don't know if they have that yet, so we'll see what happens in the offseason. McVay has been involved for a while. He was involved, but he was never an offensive coordinator, and he was never a coach in the league, and I think that's what fans are echoing right now, and a lot of GMs and owners are trying to find is that fresh voice, and maybe the Bucs go that direction. Let's see. We missed out on the guy. Peyton grabbed him to keep him off the market. I don't know who that is. Let's see. Rex Ryan. Believe the Cardinals. I don't know what that's all about. Let's see. We need a strong running game. Dirk is done. I absolutely agree with that. Go for Rex Ryan. I'm not sure. Again, they're going to look at it. Rex Ryan has had his own faults. Is he the answer? I'm not sure. We'll see. You don't need a stout defense. If you have a running game, the key is to be able to control the line of scrimmage or on at least one side of the ball. I agree with that. And there have been game plans this year where the running game has worked. It's just they turned over the ball or their defense has gotten down early and they've had to get out of their running game. It's a collection of everything. It's not just the offense. It's not just the defense. It's not just coaching. It's everything. Everything has been wrong with this team this year. You should have gone with the Spider-Man shirt today in honor of Stan Lee. You know what, Johnny? I didn't think about that, but the reason why I wore the Tampa Bay Lightning shirt is actually Marty St. Louis is getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, and because I had to hype you guys up a little bit, pump you guys up. It's Monday, and everybody's depressed about the Bucs' loss, so anything is better at this point. What do you think about firing the coach in Winston? I think it's certainly possible you're going to fire the coach and move on. I don't know who the next coach is going to be. I don't know if Winston's going to be here. Depends on what coach you hire. We don't want Rex. I agree. I'm not a Rex Ryan fan at all. I heard about that, Johnny. I still can't believe it, but it's Bucs Report. Well, what's that supposed to mean? Bucs Report does a pretty good job here. We do a pretty good job on throughout the week, and especially on Saturday afternoons, 3 to 6 on WTAN 106.1 FM and 1340 AM. It's the Sports Web on the Tan Talk Sports Network, live here on Bucs Report. Let's see. GM's got to go, period. We'll see what the Glazers do from everything that I've heard and with the ineptness of this team and what they've tried to accomplish with the running game and the offensive line. You could possibly see Jason Light going and getting out of here, getting fired. Let's see. We should get Bowles as our head coach, defensive minded. What did he do with the Jets? Has he done anything with the Jets? You want him? I don't know about that. Bridgewater was a part of the Jets preseason competition. He became expendable, and Nola grabbed him. They did grab him because they saw the value, and Drew Brees will not last forever, even though it looks like he may at his age, and the numbers he's putting up is just tremendous. Let's see here. Keep Munkin, hire a defensive-minded coach. What's up, Stephen DeFala? How you doing? Cutter's play calling is horrible. I couldn't see him getting another coordinator job or head coaching job in the NFL. Look, everybody gets a second chance or third chance in the NFL. If they feel like he should be an offensive coordinator, most likely he'll get tabbed. But I think at this point, somebody will probably hire him in college. Let's go get Jim Bob Cooter. That's interesting. I think you just wanted me to say the name. So we'll play that game on Monday. If Alabama wins a national championship, do you think we should bring in Nick Saban? No, I don't think you should bring in Nick Saban. I think this team has done this in the past with college coaches, and even though it's Nick Saban, how well did Nick Saban do with the Miami Dolphins? There's your answer right there. All right. Let's see here. No, the creamsicle doesn't rule. I don't like the creamsicle at all. I do not like the creamsicle. All right, let's see. Bucks new offensive next season. Peyton Manning. I think you're just throwing out names at this point, Corey. Is his last year? I don't know. Okay. You cannot bring in a rookie quarterback coach, and a mediocre offensive coordinator and expect competence. I agree with that. That's one of the things right now that you have to be looking from the standpoint of, but it may be a full rebuild effort. Now, with what the Glazers usually do, hiring a guy like Dirk Cutter, I think now you're going to hire a proven commodity, and that commodity may be John Harbaugh or Jim Harbaugh, or even a name that was mentioned, and I'll give him credit, Joe Bucks fan, and Mike McCarthy with the Green Bay Packers. Teams go different directions. Peyton did retire. He is. He's not as bad as an OC. He will work somewhere, maybe back in NCAA. Most likely, I agree. What's the upside of putting Ryan Griffin if the Bucks do that at some point during the season? I guess you could, again, I think it's all about evaluation. I'm not against it, but this thing has already gone downhill. So that's up to the coach. And the coach right now wants to save his job, so Fitzpatrick plays. Let's see. Tampa Bay has been bad for years. Sorry, the culture has to change. It's not Jameis's fault. Yes, he took a step back, but he's 24 and has plenty of great football in him. I think that's a astute text. I think he has regressed, but I think maybe a new coaching staff will help him out. We'll see what the Buccaneer organization thinks. I'm a Jameis Winston fan, but he hasn't played well this year, and I'm going to be fair about it. Both of these quarterbacks haven't played. So if you really want to make a case to play Ryan Griffin at this point, maybe there's your case. Let's see. Definitely need a defensive-minded head coach. After we get rid of Cutter, who should it be? My choice for a defensive-minded coach, and I don't think it's going to happen, but there was some talk about Mike Tomlin. That would be my suggestion. There's some other coaches out there, and I really have to do my research on this at this point. There's a coach out there, name escapes me. He's a hot assistant at this point. I believe his name is John D. Filipino, I believe that's his name. I'll have to check that. He's a name out there. So I'm going to do more research on this and get back to you. But I think the coaching search is going to be, it's going to have to be somebody proven, because it goes back to what one of the writers just said. Are you going to have a rookie quarterback, a rookie coach, a rookie offensive coordinator, and new scheme? That's a lot. That's a lot. What about Alex Smith? Alex Smith is in Washington. No to Bell. Peyton Manning, Bucks, new offensive coordinator next season. Corey, you're dreaming again, but I love it. Fire Cutter, make Monken the head coach. At this point, the Glazers usually don't do that, so I don't see it happening. Winston has not failed Tampa. Tampa has failed Winston. I think it's, going back to it, the first couple years throwing for 4,000 yards, having some success, but I do think this organization has given him some weapons. The offensive line hasn't necessarily always been great. The play calling, but still, you cannot continue to make the same throws and same mistakes. Again, I'm willing to give the guy another chance if there's a new coaching staff in here. If it's Cutter, I don't want it. What info do you have on the new kicker? Well, 2016 was his best year. He had a groin injury. He got cut. He's got a strong leg. We'll see what happens at this point. Anybody's got to be better than a kicker that can't kick a 30-yard field goal consistently. Anybody. Come on. All right. So I would have fired Dirk today after I heard he called plays as an owner. I would be pissed paying an offensive coordinator and him not working. Buckner, the head coach, named Winston starter, however, light not having it, so fire him and start over. It's a lot there. I mean, Buckner has never been a coach in this league. Why are you hiring him? What has the defensive line done to show you that he deserves a head coaching job at this point? Breeze is still there. They also have another running back returner that is wicked fast, plays in the Wildcat formation. Don't know who he is, but at this point, they're going to look and see, and if Winston's not the guy, they're going to the draft or they're going to get a stopgap quarterback at this point. Let's see. Again, Peter Blake, the creamsicle rules. I don't like the Bucko Bruce. It scares me, especially when there's a pirate winking at you, basically having his mouth over a knife. That does not scare me. It does not put any intimidation in me. In fact, I have bad memories about that logo in itself. McCoy is too nice. I think they're going to explore every possibility to either keep McCoy under a lower number or get rid of him. It just depends on, at this point, what kind of defensive scheme you're going to run. But I think Gerald McCoy has been a big-time disappointment this year, and maybe he's lost a step also. Let's see. How do you increase trade value when your coach can't figure out how to make his players look tradable? That is the text of the night. Thank you very much, Carlton. All right. Agree. Stop putting your quarterback under pressure. Pulling him and encouragement is the best thing. It is, but at this point, this coaching staff doesn't believe in these players, it doesn't seem like. All right, let's see. John Harbaugh, Joe Flacco join Bucs next season. Corey, once again, you are the Madden GM of the year. We'll see if that works out. Lightning, the real sports team in Tampa. Yes, I'm trying to cheer you guys up because it is a Monday on Bucs Report. It is the day after with yours truly, Peter Blake, host of the only FM sports talk show in the Tampa Bay area on Saturday afternoons from 3 to 6. We call it the evolution of sports talk radio. We give you your own walk-up music. We let you call in twice, and we don't hang up on you like those other sports talk shows do. It's the sports web. Thank you. Bucs Report is the best. We appreciate that. Let's see. I think Winston should have took the year off, got himself right. We all knew he would have lost his job to Fitzpatrick. Winston is our franchise quarterback, but he hurt himself this year. $21 million is too much. I agree with that. He did put himself in this situation, which is disappointing. You look at the play in preseason. You look at some of the throws, again, they're very frustrating because Winston can make those throws, and then there's another minute where he's not consistent enough, and he'll make a dumb decision, and that's disappointing with Jameis Winston. I want a coach that has a winning mentality. Here. Buck Flair in the house. Woo! Never jumped ship since 1978. All right. Ric Flair drip on him. I know what you're talking about. Let's see here. Laugh out loud. Bulls. I'm not going to say that. Whoever is the defensive coordinator is for the Ravens. We need him as a head coach or at least a defensive coordinator. Depends on what they do. If they hire somebody from the Ravens organization. Derek Brooks is the GM. Very, very smart man. Agree with that. I'm tired of Tampa Bay giving good quarterbacks away. Doug Williams, Steve Young, etc. Stay and develop Winston. We have too much money invested in him. Absolutely. Again, that is the biggest fear with being a Bucs fan at this point, is getting rid of somebody, especially when they're 24 years old. You have to give them another chance. And again, I go back to Jared Goff and other quarterbacks and even Steve Young with this organization. But I feel like 2 weeks ago talking about this, that the Buccaneers as an organization have given Winston a lot of weapons to play with, and it just hasn't worked out. We know what we have in Winston and Fitz. The season is over. Why not find out Ryan Griffin is on our roster? Why not? But that's a coaching decision by Dirk Cutter to save his job. Again, everybody is under an evaluation process in 2019. Everybody has to be evaluated at this point, and you have to see what you have and your young players. The head coach isn't saving his job, I agree, but he thinks he is. Offer Peyton Manning a VP of football operations position. That has been talked about with the Tennessee Titans. He turned it down. Maybe he does that. Peter, will you coach the Bucs? I've never coached before, but what a hell of an opportunity to coach the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, huh? Wouldn't that be something? I don't know. Let's see. Joke. Pagano is not the answer for sure. He is Dirk Cutter's friend, so I doubt he would accept this job at this point. Mike Tomlin would be great. He's in tune with the game. He's been in Tampa before as a secondary coach, if I remember correctly. You are absolutely correct, and most likely it's one of those coaches that you shouldn't have left out of the building. It's probably the reason why they hired Raheem Morris, because they thought he was the next Mike Tomlin. That's why comparisons are asinine at this point. You should have hired Mike Tomlin, but you know what? Hindsight is 2020. Let's see. At this point, I wouldn't be against a total house cleaning from front office, coaching staff, and even several players. The culture has to change. I agree the culture has to change, but we've talked about the culture here the last couple years, and nothing has changed. And what I think needs to change is some of the leaders on this football team need to be traded and need to be on another team at this point. Stop it with the Ryan Griffin foolishness. He's coached by the same people who coach the quarterbacks you want to get rid of. That's very true, too. When they won the Super Bowl, believe Drew Brees in New Orleans, far different from San Diego Drew Brees. Agree? Right coach could make Winston a Hall of Famer. Don't be so quick to give up. I'm not so quick to give up exactly for that reason. And it comes down to Sean Payton and knowing that system and knowing your strengths and weaknesses with Drew Brees, and he's gotten the most out of him. You can talk about Drew Brees being a great quarterback. You can also talk about Sean Payton and having the system. You know, it goes both ways. What's better, the chicken or the egg? Well, you have Sean Payton, you have Drew Brees. You have Aaron Rodgers, you have Mike McCarthy. You have Tom Brady, you have Bill Belichick. You have Joe Montana, you have Bill Walsh. I mean, it's happened before. Offensive coordinator, coaches and quarterbacks, they work together at this point. Hugh Jackson, Bucks should hire. Why, Corey? He didn't only won, but what, 2-3 games in the last couple of years? Come on. Let's see. Need a quarterback coach like Gruden when he brought Brad Johnson here. Need a head coach that's a quarterback kind of guy. I've already talked about that. He was hired with the Bengals. I hire Les Steckel for head coach. Boom, everything fixed. Not so fast, because he was the Buccaneer offensive coordinator in 2000, and then they fired him the next year. All right, good stuff, Francisco. I don't care who's coaching him. I want to see why on earth he continues to be on our roster. I need to see him in a real game. Okay. Todd Haley, Trubinsky, I don't know where that's going. I think he's with Chicago at this point. McCoy was always garbage. I don't know what to say about McCoy. McCoy's a Pro Bowler. The excuse was to get him players around him and he would excel. I think it's fair to say that he's been double and triple team. I think it's also unfair because McCoy in this market is compared to Warren Sapp, and he's just not Warren Sapp. He's a different type of player. We can't continue to keep starting over. Cutter isn't the answer, but the next coach we need has to have time to turn things around. We have the offensive pieces. We just need to work with our defense to get them right, and then we'll be back to the season is over. It's good text. Tampa Bay hires Todd Haley and develops Winston. Todd Haley, is he the answer? I'm not sure at this point. Give a shout out to Marty St. Louis. That's exactly why I wore the Tampa Bay Lightning shirt. Congratulations to Tampa Bay Lightning's own Marty St. Louis being inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame tonight. The Tampa Bay Lightning, a great organization and a reason why you should be excited about what is going on in Tampa this year. Guys, that's it. I tell you what, we're going to wrap it up here. Thanks a lot for joining me. Hopefully your Monday gets better. Hopefully this was your venting session that you needed. This has been the Day After Show. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. We'll see you on Saturday on the Sports Web, the evolution of Sports Talk Radio. Have a good night.